Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure and my honor. It is Tuesday at 7 p.m. And right you are. The CM conversation is starting right now. Our guest today is not, as we have suggested, Britta Schlömer, but instead we have the honor and the pleasure to see again Tobias. Hello, Tobias.
Here I am.
Good
Hi.
to have you with
Welcome.
us again. And such as we have a very good experience in having guests a second time or a third time, it's
Mhm.
always a pleasure to continue an exciting conversation and find some bullet points we haven't had time to focus or dive
Yeah.
into more detail.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, your wife Britta has been not able to participate, and we do not dive into that because you are extremely busy, and um, there are some challenges in the organization always when a customer says, "Hi, I want your appearance." Someone has to run, and in this case, it's how the combination of private life, business life to coordinate comes to a challenge, like I know it for myself at the best. Now, could you share a bit about, even that she is not present, how you
Mhm.
met in private
Ah.
and inform the Thought Leader Systems, which is your company where
Mhm.
you are both in the leadership role?
Mhm.
We are
So in
curious.
fact, yeah, really, she has to attend a late night client meeting, which is not a client meeting, late night client meeting for the customer because it's a U.S. company.
Yeah,
What happens in this Q4 is, and I will turn back to the old days in a second, but just to explain what's happening now.
yeah,
Q4 for many companies is a stressful quarter. No doubt about that, because budgets have to be taken care of in customer organizations, and everything has to be delivered on time. So it's like being in the Christmas business. Every present has to be delivered on December 24th, because afterwards there will be nobody at home. So feels like a bit like handing out presents. But this time it's different. So what we see is that um, maybe there is already this close connection to today's topic. When we had this first study on COVID,
yeah.
many companies already foresaw major consequences long term, and
Okay.
that was a bit blurry for most of them. Now it is not. So everybody really wants to be prepared for the next wave, beginning of next year. So we see a Q4 momentum that is breathtaking, outstanding. I don't know. So it's and
Wow.
the clientele moves now with a global approach. So 1 year ago, it was like certain parts of certain organizations would move, and now it's entire corporate clients moving like hell. So that's why we have late night meetings, because if you want to find a suitable slot for the teams working in the US, in the EU, and in Asia, it's always evening in Europe. And when some C-level sets up spontaneous meetings, it will always hover around 1922 here in Europe. So we're working now in two shifts.
Okay. So we have the
Hey,
situation, if I understand you right, that we are like in the caveman situation. The Neanderthaler is coming out with his club or his mace and is hitting you such a sell me, sell me, sell me, sell me, sell me. Yeah?
well, it's the, yeah, it's getting maybe because we develop over time. So from year to year, it's like 40% growth. And it's not
What?
only quantitative growth, it's like you rise through the ranks in terms of vendor relations, at the same time clientele. So tickets have been, hey, five-figure tickets were great when we commenced the business. Of course, that's
Yeah.
outstanding, and for some HubSpot agencies, part of our business, it still is. Then we went to seven figures, and now it's seven, six, and now it's seven. So it's like these are huge projects, and not only it's long-term transformation that we have to support. and
Yeah.
then you work in a completely different manner. And you asked me how Britta and I met. So we
Yeah.
met at Deutsche Bank a couple of years ago, and immediately fell in love. So moved together and everything. So
So,
like started a family, married, and I was still way back then. I was still working with Deutsche Bank. She left the company already, and we started this kind of hobby. So she was very good at identifying thought leaders, or as you call them nowadays, corporate influencers in corporate organizations, even for Deutsche Bank. And she developed these people, gave them the needed authority, visibility, worked with entire teams on that. And we just intended to start an office for her as a sidekick.
Hmm.
But fortunately enough, these thought leaders and these people from other organizations brought their companies along with it. So we started consulting major companies on thought leadership. And then they asked us, after having consulted them with lots of beautiful paper, if we were ready and willing to deliver on that huge promise, like turning them into thought leaders. And we had to make up our minds what to do. And we said that, okay, if you really want to not call yourself a thought leader, but you want to be the only go-to authority in the market, you would possibly be the most present brand in Google, have the best customer relations. You would have to turn a profit on that initiative and maybe make people forget about your competition, so that you're not only the number one in the market, but maybe the only ones for your customers.
mhm.
Okay.
And we're still trying to catch up with this huge value proposition, because it's demanding when you want to turn a global operating businesses into thought leaders in core countries against competition. So it keeps us busy. And that's basically the story. So it all started with one office and three working desks. And now we're hiring people in South Africa and the US, and we have to, because of course our customers are already there, and you can spare yourself like opening up shop there and having beautiful offices. You don't need this anymore.
Yeah.
And
No.
it's more important to attract the right people who are willing to be business consultants or solution consultants with a technical background, and make these people work together seamlessly in a kind of virtual or hybrid approach and virtual teams, because the customer is virtual as well.
Yeah. You have the opportunity and the pleasure and
Hmm.
the challenge, all three in one, that you cover three customer data platforms with
Hmm.
your organization. You are in the Adobe Experience platform, you are in Oracle Unify, and you are in one I have not heard of, Tilium Audience Stream,
Hmm.
which sounds pretty exotic to me.
Yeah.
Even well, let's put it that way. I am Mr. I don't know a thing, so make me brilliant
Ah,
and tell me where's the money running.
where's the money running? So people used to say that data is the new oil. Of course, it is not. Maybe insights is the new oil, and then again, no, insight is not enough. And people talk about actionable insights. So when you have lots of data and you do data analytics, you come to actionable insights. Uh-huh. I'd rather have insightful actions, and that's this huge difference, or this huge thing unsolved in the market.
Yeah,
And it still feels the same, like way back 25 years ago when I installed the first service at Henkel
yeah,
to interpret real-time data from Walmart and configure the real-time market shares in every single outlet worldwide for my company. So what was my market share on shampoo in Munich or in Arkansas? Um, the thing hasn't changed. So the flood of data has risen. So there is a lot more available, of course, again in real time. And the technology now catches up. And the one of the major purposes of the so-called CDPs, or customer data platforms,
hmm,
coming from the consumer business side is, okay, we have so much data available on unknown people. So segment interpretation, segment data and stuff. And guess what? Out of the blue, these people turn into real life people. So these unnamed people convert, and you can see their entire history. And now you have to nurture them And then again, you have lots of touch points like an e-commerce store and your own outlets and whatever your online, your marketing automation is waiting, your CRM system is waiting, every channel is ready to communicate, and you don't know how.
Now,
The
where does this company come from?
Telium is
Yeah.
okay. So Telium is again. So maybe talking about the big guys as well.
Oh, yeah.
Like there are just a few out there. Of course, all of them are mostly purely American.
Of course.
Of course,
There is one small company in a little village called Waldorf,
I
which
know you would say that. Of course,
I do not judge to be completely American driven. They have an American mindset from time to time, but
yes.
sometimes they keep their peasants' movement and their thoughts to be down to earth and from German origin in solidity, in making fair business and not betraying people. So far, I know that is important to me for trust
Yeah.
building.
Hey, come on. Of
Oracle
course,
certainly
and we
felt
love these
different.
guys. And of course. Um, maybe it's not. Yeah, maybe it's the same thing that I mentioned a couple of minutes ago. It's not where your headquarter is based, but where the people
Yeah.
work. And you mentioned the mentality, and maybe that is that. So it's really a question of mentality. What is happening there? No wonder that I work now 80% of the time in English, of course, with American clients or the UK clients, and
Yeah.
you can still say that the mentality is partly far advanced there. So concerning customer data platforms in Germany or in the European region at this moment, you have like the early movers
Yeah.
who are willing to find out what's really hidden in the data because they know that they will only know the end benefit of the data when they not only come to actionable insights but insightful actions, see the benefit in real time and can act on that stuff accordingly. So that's more this quick moving mentality, and it can't harm when you have done some kind of marketing automation stuff before
Yeah.
as a marketing team to implement such an ambitious software category. And the big thing that we see is okay, data is available, software is available out of the box.
Yeah.
So no matter if it is Telium or Adobe, the tools are
Oracle
really
or
Oracle, of
SAP.
course,
Yeah.
but many more segment. So there are a lot of offers out there.
Mm.
The concern is that I see the huge shortage is on people who would be able or willing to manage that stuff.
Ah, very good point.
Well, there's another point of when Ralph already asked where's the money. What do you tell your customers when they are asking this kind of how do I calculate the ROI on a CDP?
hmm hmm Well, getting a CDP, a customer data platform, up and running, including all the integration, including the data
Mhm.
cleansing, including bringing the teams up to speed, aligning the channels,
Mhm.
which is always a political game, I'd say.
Mhm.
Um, that's that's time consuming, and it's not so much about money, but about the time you need. Um, the time you really need to implement it. You need a
Mhm.
long scoping phase, comparably with CRM projects, customer success management, marketing, even revenue operations. So when we like, for example, install marketing, sales, customer success management, completely new. That's what
Mhm.
we do for investors in mature startups. Currently doing that stuff. Um, the payback is immediate, and you combine efficiency arguments with the business leverage. So there will be more turnover and less cost. In a CDP environment, um, what is important for many companies is being able to steer all their channels for the first time in an efficient way. Because up to then, nobody was able to steer all the incoming data signals to coordinate them into one unified customer experience, for example, And that's why still many people out there talk about CX when it comes to CDP. So customer experience is one of the major drivers, of course, to employ a customer data platform. And then, for example, multi-channel retailers, we've had them quite a lot this year and last year with CDPs, is that for them it feels like installing a kind of customer brain for the very first time,
Ah,
because up to then their business was purely or merely transactional. So an airline, a hotel chain. So my old vertical, like when I worked at Chewy, I would have cut my whole hand off for a CDP, but even
okay.
CRM systems were not available way back then. Uh, you had to program everything, and now it's freely available. So purchasing it, making consultants scoping it is not a big deal. Implementing it is hell.
Mhm.
You
How
have,
do we
when you
come
want
to an
to coordinate
ROI? Don't forget the question. How do we come to an ROI? And
the
Mhm.
ROI. The ROI comes from the efficiency of each channel. So one channel sells more.
important, one by one.
How to calculate
This
it?
how
That's the
how you
question, yeah.
calculate it's
Well, you
it's
need to
like
make the
this.
business case, right? So how do
You
you do
have
the
to make,
business case?
yeah, you have to make the business case. So you calculate the additional impact on sales in the respective channels. And what you have to find out is like the interdependency in one customer journey only, how
Yeah.
you really determine a later purchase, where marketing automation systems always said it's an attribution model. Now,
Mhm.
this is attribution modeling on speed. So you have really a ball defining the entity relationship models, you define the channel models, you define the decision logic between the channels, and then you want to figure out the customer journeys. And sometimes you even use different buyer personas to come up with an ROI per buyer persona, which works.
Yeah, but that is not a job of a CDP. Now,
What, what do
now
you
we are
mean?
talking journey orchestration and journey management.
Oh, this
So
is the underlying benefit. You have to do this first of all.
yeah, of course you need to do it. Well, before you don't have some clean data, you don't have, well, an ability to manage a process, right? So, but still now, this is an initiative that runs across probably various programs, implementation programs, implementation projects. So, and
Mhm.
all of them will say, oh, I did it. Who, how to attribute it to the right thing?
Oh, very good question.
Yeah, of course.
Ah,
You're
um,
not here to only have fun. You're here to be somewhat grilled as well.
ah, um,
Oh, there was the little lines in the contract we have not read yet.
Yeah.
Oh,
but guys, people are listening. I can't tell you the truth. I would have to talk a lot about
Oh,
politics and about management level. No, um, um, maybe a longer answer to
good
the short
follow-up
question.
question there.
Oh,
oh,
does the business case
Uh,
in marketing
mhm.
differentiate from the business case in sales? It sure does. Looking forward to hearing your stance on. Of course it does. Well, but then again, depending on your business model, if you are in B2C, it is not so different. When you are in B2B environments, it is completely. When you are in a software as a service or platform platform as a service company, it really varies. So what we see is, and that is part of the answer, the ROI has to be perfectly adapted to the business model that the customer is working on.
fair enough.
And that's why there is no easy answer. So multi-channel retailers have a problem in leveraging ROI across channels. That's why I answered with orchestration, because for them that's already a big deal. And you include the loyalty. So you make the things that should have worked before more efficient, like, for example, loyalty programs and all that stuff. So it's really about optimizing 80% of what's already there.
Okay.
In a scenario where you have airline business, tour operator business, and all that fun, it is more still coming to actionable insights than insightful actions, because the insightful actions would still be pretty much transactional. So you don't have this huge upsell influence on the next flight or the next hotel booking. This
Yeah.
is and will stay a sales driven thing. You can you can really push loyalty programs and loyalty. That's doable, but this is hard to prove. So for them, it's quite a different scenario. When it comes to software as a service, platform as a service, um, you should say that these people have the most relevant and useful real-time data coming from their product. So
Mhm.
that should be highly motivated. They should be highly motivated to do all dimensions of CDP, not only orchestration.
Yeah.
But it depends on the size of the business and the maturity of the business.
Yeah.
So many mature software as a service companies hover in turnover around 15 million, $20 million.
Mhm.
And for them, such a project is still a major invest. And
Um,
then I said there is a shortage of people because uh, in such a project, you would have to free up leading people in your organization for weeks. And
yeah.
that's merely not possible. So it should be a great opportunity for the big guys
Yeah.
and the blue chips. And for them, it can be, I'd say, a political struggle,
Yeah.
because every single channel has its own life.
Yeah.
So way back in 2001, right after September 11, when I was appointed marketing director for TUI, I had to live with a situation that TUI Online was a complete separate business firing against the local
Okay.
um, to operating constellations, if you will. They had their own life, they had complete autonomy, and you couldn't do something about this. So I don't know how it is today,
Mhm.
but everywhere where you encounter that the channels and the contact points have their own agenda, and still in finance and banking, this can happen.
Yeah.
You have a hard time integrating these channels. I did such a project in crawl mode in a Deutsche Bank a couple of years ago, where together with the guys from the data departments, we tried to come up with a real-time optimization of customer experience. But it's such a hard time when online business has its own agenda.
It is definitely, and it's even more hard if we see that you are talking about the large one and the blue chips, and you have undertaken very impressive survey in the mid-market scenario. You
Hmm.
have chosen your partner Adobe, and you have chosen the Bundesverband Mittelständische Wirtschaft. For
Hmm.
our English audience, is an association of mid-market organizations aligned to search benefit together. That's the idea behind it. And what's the truth? We do not discuss. The BVMW does have more than 8,000 active, and as they describe, 30,000 more passive uh, activists. Yes, Annie, I'm looking forward to that.
Hmm.
I believe that this is very important to see how game changers we have had starting the summer last year, and how it is continued till today. What is going on in the mid market? And
Hmm.
you made, when we upfront started our conversation and did the warm up, you said
Hmm.
that from your perspective, the real hit will be the mid market, will be the players which are in the market. And as you have several CRM systems which describe themselves
Hmm.
as mid market driven systems, you
Hmm.
have, at least out of the line of the CRM systems you support, one, two, three, four, five, six, which have the ability to serve also mid market.
Hmm.
The one with the big O and a little Rakel behind it doesn't know how to play mid market. Honestly, not. even if Daniel Rengli would get mad for a minute. This is the turf of NetSuite. It's not the Oracle turf. I have chosen then in 5 to 6 projects, which was no good at all. Yeah. And this was clearing up the marketplace. Now, what is the outcome? What did you find out? How did COVID as a game changer and the urge of getting digital or die, to put it in rough words, what was the outcome of your study?
Um, you can already summarize it in a few sentences, so we wouldn't have to look at hundreds of charts. Way back,
Hallelujah.
yeah, no, we wouldn't. So the first consequence was that people asked whether they think it's a long, mid, or short-term impact. Already said they fear it's a real long-term impact. So only half of them said so in the Deutsche Mittelstand. So small, medium enterprises were 50% aware that something big could be going on,
Okay.
and 50% were not.
So still 50% like hiding their heads into the sand, to put it like this. Like the one of my favorite pictures which I have in the kitchen, where there is the bird ostrich, and is hiding his head into the sand and says, "No pig is watching what I'm brilliantly doing." And there is a pig, "Boah, that looks cool." Yeah. So visibility and non-visibility, being aware and being non-aware. Um, on what areas do you think is the mid-market needed to move forward in the next
We
12
tried to
months?
right in the having all the data from these forms and interviews last summer. We tried to come to conclusions whether there might be some hidden patterns in terms of, for example, verticals. So, like, okay, one industry could be affected, the other could be not. But that was not the case. So we saw that this 50-50 thing was across industries and sizes of businesses. That was amazing for us to see. And the answer to what lies ahead, Ralph, comes from what did people focus on already then? So was it like, would they spend more effort and energy on the internal functions like purchasing, production,
Yeah.
controlling, or would they focus more on the process side, maybe to discover efficiencies, or would they turn to sales and marketing and try to tackle their problems from the customer acquisition and customer retention side? And it was amazing because most of them that, okay, let's turn to the market. Let's not
Yeah.
focus on the internal factors. And that was everyone. So that was people who said it's long term or short term. All of them, they said that they should heavily invest now into processes, into marketing and sales. That was the major takeaway. So I guess about 60-70% of the companies said they would spend a lot.
Yeah. And I remember reading the study, not just for preparation today, but since I got it into my fingers and you made the webinar together with the Adobe chap
Hmm.
and were quoting some examples, I was quite in a state of shock that the mid-market organizations, let's place it like the 50% which still do not believe that something is changing, that they would like to go back to normal, like in the old days, and that they would prefer to go in public relations and a little bit nitty-gritty standard marketing, such as print, some flyers outsending, and that. Is that really true? Is that future?
Um, well, here on the chat, one LinkedIn user said or asked, so the German angst is real? I guess let's go way back. So it's August 2020.
Yeah.
And people see the restaurants opening up again, so everything is fine again, and you
Uh-huh.
could think that maybe this thing is over. Or okay, if it closes down again for a few weeks,
Objection, Your Honor.
What?
Such as you say they thought.
Yeah, they thought.
Hmm.
Well, the thinking was the buzzword that he wants to.
But come on, after the next lockdown, it will
But
be
anyway,
over,
so
right?
yeah,
Huh?
but back to the German angst.
Yeah.
Well, the German angst, I guess, is not that huge phenomenon. I think that many people thought, or many sales and marketing directors and CEOs thought that the implications for the business relations partly could be fundamental, others thought not.
Yeah.
Overall, for their business development, they thought they would not be endangered. And if we take a closer look at the German economy,
Yeah.
it could be worse, couldn't it? So
Yeah.
um,
Even more worse. You're right. It's fair enough. See the half
it's
full glass, not half empty. Yeah.
right. So what I guess said what started way back then was this differentiation that continues to aggravate between the people who went into stalemate and did nothing and waited for things to turn better, and the others who tried to move as quickly as possible into a new direction.
Yeah.
So digitalization has always been a thing, and um, like inbound marketing and getting online access to customers via LinkedIn and SEO is not a phenomenon that was pushed by the pandemic. It has always been there, but the decisiveness of entire staff and the entire teams to take it to heart and do something about this, and not only do something about this, but do want to become number one. That's different now.
Mhm.
And
How
it's no
far?
longer about let's do something, because it's not a bad idea to be online,
Hmm.
but the mantra is now let's be number one or out of business.
Oops.
And that you can see in Google Ads, you can see it in online authority on Google. So in the visibility channels, you can see how LinkedIn has changed over the last 18 months.
Yeah.
So the spamming has become unbearable.
Correct.
LinkedIn as a marketplace for talent attraction has become the number one source. And it changed, of course, the recruitment and the culture functions in organizations, which means two things for the Deutsche Mittelstand. As long as people are willing to talk in to talk in English, and the culture is now ready to be multinational, they can acquire new team members from wherever they want within seconds, literally. That's what
Mhm.
we're seeing. If you still feel like you are the international number one, but let's do it in German, and in the other countries we have our representatives, you create
Mhm.
this cultural abyss and
Okay.
this chasm,
Yeah.
which leads to stalemate in your organization, because you could not even align your teams worldwide on how to proceed with your latest campaigns. Let's not even talk about customer data platforms and managing customer experience across languages and cultures and countries and time zones. But that's what hitting the Deutsche Mittelstand quite rapidly now.
Did the Deutsche Mittelstand understand that there is the moving from outbound to inbound in the marketing arena? Have
They
they
understand.
really understood it already?
Um, I think they pretty much understand that. So when we wrote our book Inbound, based on the philosophy, like for example, one of our vendors, HubSpot, very important partner for us. We love them very much. So and they created not only their software category, wanted we one a category of one, but come up with an entire philosophy and inbound, like tying together SEO and content and all the stuff available and social media, and just claiming to say that you have to not throw yourself before the customer, in front of the customer, but track them by help of interest and interest-based relationships. That's not obviously that's a good idea and the only one that works.
Hmm.
And the other is cost intensive, because Google Ads is still the way for losers. So you waste your money there more and more. So building this kind of top of the funnel,
Hmm.
everybody understood that, except for the other 80% of B2B companies in Germany that now focus on inbound and should move on as soon as possible to the beautiful stepdaughter of inbound called account-based marketing, because they work in a niche where they only have 200 customers maybe in Germany, and nobody will Google their stuff. Or
Tata.
there are search volumes of 30, 40, 50, 100. So we're currently working with huge companies, even on the US market for medtech, and the search volume is 870 for their category killer keyword. They can't live from that, which is not a problem because there are only 3,000 companies willing to buy. So that's enough. But you have to address these 3,000 companies directly via social selling, account-based marketing, all that stuff. So someone asked here, Deutscher Mittelstand, thinking inside out.
I guess Alex again.
Yes, sir.
Less and less. So it's really turning now because of the huge acceptance rate of especially marketing automation. So
Yeah.
one thing that has really happened over the last 8 years is that marketing now becomes an important function in the B2B environment. That's true. And marketing in the B2B environment always means like lead generation, possibly lead nurturing, sometimes even buyer persona. Wow. And email marketing, of course, and newsletter and lead generation on your website. Everybody knows that now. So that's the common understanding in the Deutsche Mittelstand, and that's not only valid for the DACH region, that's commonplace all around.
But that's not outside-in thinking.
The outside-in sense,
Blasting even more newsletters and having even more landing pages and whatever useless information on whatever channels is not exactly outside-in thinking.
it's all in the details.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
of course. But how do you see marketing drive a change there?
It's all in the details. When you just take the stuff that you currently have on your hands and that hovers around your product and you put it online and you call it a white paper and you make it available via download, then you can be so embarrassed and frustrated that nobody downloads it, or that you just get the handful of customers that are ready to buy.
Yeah.
When you continue to stay at that level, you are thinking inside out. When you then reverse engineer the customer journey and says, okay, our products are answers to questions that we don't understand. So what could be the question that customers have? You're turning into this kind of outside-in thinking while doing exactly the same stuff, only that you produce different white papers. You send it to people via LinkedIn, and people read it now because you appeal to them in much earlier phases of their customer journey. So you really help them without talking about your product. So that's one thing. The next thing is whether everybody has a website in top of the funnel, of course, but only just a handful of them turns them into sales-driven consultancy conversations online.
Okay.
Still. And so you can have a website inside out thinking or outside in. It all depends on the details and your philosophy on the business. When it comes to marketing, sales is even worse.
So
Why?
This leads sort of back to the earlier question with the business case. Should the business case, well, it was a CDP context at that point in time, but should the business case be different between sales and marketing, considering that marketing and sales actually should have the same objectives? Or is that
did I understand your question? Did you ask, should the ROI perspective come from marketing or from the alignment of the two functions? Was that your question?
Yeah, that would probably be my question, rather than asking whether it is different between sales and marketing.
Okay. Yeah, of course. Hey, as usual, it should be, but it isn't.
I'm afraid we have too much Radio Erivan questions and answers.
Too many consulting answers here.
Too many consulting answers.
Hey, let's a bit more straight, such as do you have in the last roughly 18 months is fair, that the alignment between marketing and sales has become closer? Are they bridging the gap between these two departments?
That's what I wanted to say. So really quite openly, marketing has changed. And now the ball is in the field of sales to accept this new function on eye level or not.
Okay.
And I see cases where marketing does a wonderful job really attracting new leads, even sales marketing or sales qualified leads, and sales acts on that. and in some cases, sales merely ignores the effort, which becomes quite existential.
Yeah.
So I see two things, and this buzzword of aligning now becomes really existential for the Deutsche Mittelstand companies as well, because marketing is catching up, and that's why I said now it's about sales. Because if you have a decent understanding of market, for example, marketing automation, and the team is doing a wonderful job, you have the right amount of content, you're ranking like hell, you're attracting leads, you're converting people, you're nurturing them,
Mhm.
and the sales organization still has a CRM understanding 2.0. It's my Rolodesk. Some
Yeah.
people might even still know that.
Yeah.
And it's even my task management thing, where I can see what I can do or have to do to fulfill my quantitative targets or activity targets, how many calls today.
Mhm.
And the sales team hasn't moved on and doesn't follow up in real time and doesn't live whatever CRM, call it 3.0, 4.0, whatever. They have to change now,
I'm
basically, if you
with
want.
you completely. And there we go with one of the claims of one of our systems we monitor a bit stronger. Let the
Mhm.
system do the work. How is that going to be happening? And what is your observation on the systems in the CRM arena you are supporting and providing?
Mhm.
Who is going to be beneficial and most handy for people in sales which do not really love their CRM systems?
You mean like recommending one or two brands here,
Well,
possibly?
I wouldn't go
Only if
for.
you, only if you are going paid for it. So
Uh,
Oh, hmm,
mm.
That's
it's
the
about
one.
money.
So today, no branding. Sorry, folks, but it would be fair to go into the line of the arrangements of the products you support.
Mm.
To let's say there are amount of number which go directly to attack that challenge for starting from January on to support the sales more vividly. No?
Good news from the study from last summer, summer
Yeah.
2020, was that the biggest investment that German SME companies saw was going to their e-commerce environment and the CRM systems.
Okay.
Mhm.
So really decision-driven things, really sales-driven things. Many B2B companies invested into, and still do, into at least getting like 5%, 10% of their turnover via online across industry. So that's machinery industry in the true sense of the meaning. It's med tech. It's everyone. So they do something there, and that's not even taken into consideration when we mention CRM systems, because CRM would still mean you have a personal conversation with a rep.
Yeah.
Well, at least since the beginning of the pandemic, I think that the CEOs of the companies want to reduce more and more the sales cost.
Mhm.
And it started with the car fleet
Yeah.
that wouldn't be moved for months.
Such
And then
as
it came,
give you a new kitchen chair and you give us back your car. Hmm.
and now the home office has become the new status symbol
Hmm.
instead of the car. So it's changed, the entire sales understanding of people changes so much. And so in the beginning, I couldn't understand why most of the companies said they would invest into CRM systems, until I recognized that maybe this buzzwording that I just used, CRM 1.0, hey, up to 4.0, but you can even download a white paper from the Deutsche Bundesregierung around CRM systems from the Bundesministerium für Wirtschaft and something around these cohorts or generations of CRM systems. There you can see that, yeah, so people in part want to achieve exactly what you said. So they are not fascinated by a CRM system. They do not even want to have a CRM administrator
Yeah.
sitting idle around or programming things. They want to be able to do it themselves out of the box. And when you ask me for these categories in the CRM market, it's like you have um, more these out of the box sales rep self help systems
Yeah.
moving through the ranks. pushing the upward administrator and programmer driven CRM systems into the upper niche and corner.
Ah,
So because the sales teams understand more and more that by help of some software packages, they can define the deal stages themselves, the deal types, the calculations, the reportings, the dashboards. Maybe they get this installation not up and running themselves, but engage some kind of agency for 3 months, 6 months. And then they even take their long-term existing legacy CRM system and just move away from it into an environment where the sales efficiency is higher because you just forget about the salary of the CRM administrator. And the big impact that we currently see is on the sales operation
yeah.
role. The sales operation role was so busy caring for the Excel files and reports and dashboards,
Yeah.
tying together the loose ends from data sources, looking back into the contract database, then again into the taxation system. They were mere visits of keeping the amount of data together and delivering the right reports in real time. And even that is challenged. Even the most demanding category software as a service companies have of special niche add-ons for CRM systems, easily compatible with every CRM system out there, or at least in the top range of the worldwide CRM systems. Of
One
course,
of
there is
your
PAC, the big
supported
five.
systems does have the opportunity that you can choose out of over 50 products in one environment. And they do also offer that the users can design their own um, driving and
Mhm,
designing their own system in the CX.
mhm.
Do you think that it is a valuable and useful add-on that the users for themselves can create their personal system?
Yes, definitely. And I know what you're thinking of. As long as such a supplier thinks process driven, like for example, takes out the the breaking points between company processes, ERP, CRM, e-commerce, marketing, sales, service, customer success management. Maybe that's even something different, finance, so that you get an end-to-end understanding of the processes, custom related processes. That's awesome. So of course, the biggest providers in theory offer that. So when you turn to the global companies, they have CRM systems, marketing automation systems, service, e-commerce software, the big companies.
Yeah.
But the reality is that most of the companies, even the big ones, have Frankenstacks of different players.
That word
So
comes.
it would be so nice to have everything from Microsoft or everything from Salesforce or everything from SAP, just to name a few, or Oracle,
Also,
but
or
or
HubSpot.
Zoho in another but or whatever. Some of them really want to move there. Even HubSpot
Yeah.
wants to move there with his complete environment because they know that you have to deliver over time. You have to deliver the complete CX environment because the barriers between marketing and sales and service, they really disappear.
Yeah. And as you know, I'm a friend of clear and vivid language, which is not political correct.
Mhm.
I have heard that the Blue Cloud has a lot of pissed customers which are looking for new opportunities and looking desperately for migration into other, more friendlier environments. Is that an observation you can share with us?
It could be a self-fulfilling prophecy if we talk of that. Well, the thing is, I wouldn't say it's a problem of one brand, but all CRM suppliers having
Yeah,
their product out in the market since at least 10 years
yeah,
have built it a long time ago with a data-driven focus.
uh-huh,
They couldn't do otherwise.
yeah,
Then the workflow engines came along for no money at all, and you try to incorporate a workflow engine into your data-driven environment so you can program every single view for every single role. But then again, when people fill out the forms and you have all the data, you have to train people on the workflows that are not visible. So your salespeople work in a data-related manner and not in a process-related manner.
Yeah.
They are not being driven by the software to do that.
Yeah.
And that's why maybe companies with a process understanding saying that you want to lead sales reps as soon as possible through sales frameworks and task management have the upper hand. Because you in now a COVID and post-COVID environment, it is merely impossible to train salespeople. How would you do that? You don't sit around in a boiler room. The boiler room is dead. It will never resurface again. That's it. So it's every one of us alone in his or her camera.
Yeah.
And the ramp up time could potentially go up. And then to train sales processes in such a hybrid or virtual environment is really demanding. And that's why
Very good
process-driven
point.
software can save the day, Ralph.
I would like to put this in a let's say a reminding star for another conversation
Mhm.
as how needed, desperately needed, an integrated sales flow and sales methodology is
Whoa,
these days
big time.
for a good system to support this lack of information, the lack of training, how to do the company's sales processes, and how to get people acquainted to what would be not only from our black box AI the next best move, but
Mhm.
how would we like to see it from our sales methodology? Yeah.
And you know what? What you say is nobody's role.
Yeah.
It's not the role of the sales lead.
Yeah.
It's not the role of sales ops. It's not the role of the CRM administrator. It's not the role of a sales rep. It's not the role of a CSM representative. It's not the role of the BDR, the business developer.
Yeah.
Whose role is it?
Mine as a
So,
consultant who is knowledgeable and wants to say and pay. He wants to get paid to say how you can do it and
yep.
which systems do have the ability to integrate a sales methodology and make it happen. Because I believe that aside of the buyer persona and a role model such as take DISG or limbic models or whatever
Yeah.
triggering
Hmm.
people, that you have helping hands which are understandable to the people instead of the AI where they
Hmm.
have always a black box they cannot look into. So if you have proper data, which is another of my beloved topics aside of
Hmm.
security, if we have the challenge that good data is eaten up by bad data, that we have to get that challenge sorted. And we would have the opportunity also with artificial intelligence and help to
Hmm.
get some steps forward. The next challenge, from my perspective, is to make transparent what kind of suggestions the systems are giving you on the
Whoa.
next best action in the way of not this is commander black box, I command you to do that step next, but friendly guidance. You have three choices. This will make you rich, this will make you poor, and in the middle, well, it takes you some more time if you want to become rich. Just joking, yeah. But
Hmm.
this is the way how people would have a choice to select which step to go. Yeah,
You mean in sales?
yeah, and in
Huh?
marketing and in service.
Well,
Because
in marketing, it's on the wish list.
yeah, but we are no longer. We asked our colleague, as she was still then in constellation research,
Hmm.
and also we asked the lady in Forrester, Liz Miller. about what's on the wish list of the
She's
marketing people.
Constellation, by the way.
Sorry, Constellation. Kate Leggett is Forrester, and if I do not mistake, no, everybody. So Liz, yes, you are Constellation. Ray, ashes on my hat. One day, everybody wants to rule the world. I'm working on it. Now, point is that what's on the marketeers wish list is, from our perception, a lot different than what's honestly on their wish list. And so
Mhm.
we see that a lot of load is falling now onto the feet of the salespeople. And
Mm.
if they are no longer allowed to drive their cars, which are no longer existing, like you stated, but they have their new office chairs, if they do not have only a new kitchen chair and some nice, shiny equipment and a cool background, then the aspect is how for heck's, for Christ's sake, are they going to keep their business up and running? I see a lot of organizations, especially in the small, medium enterprise and in the mid market, honestly in danger that they will not make it through the next 12 months.
Even that, you think? So I'm still counting on the established customer relations that many players should have, and where the AI factor and the system wouldn't seem to play such a big role because everybody knows everybody. So as long as personal relationships are in place and they have such an ongoing conversation since years, nothing should be endangered. But if one of the sides changes, even the contact person
Yeah,
changes, I definitely agree. This can be at risk because personal relationships become more and more valuable.
danke. That is exactly the point. We endanger the personal relationships because we have only the camera meetings and we are more and more ghosted out of own experience, such as in the load of mails and whatsoever, and these LinkedIn spam. How do you sort properly to keep loyal to your friends? And how much are the organizations, from your perspective, loyal to their suppliers?
So I don't want to be politically correct here. I think that we
Please
live in
don't do
the
so. Yeah.
hyper
Well,
naive
please.
times of the epidemic where it's awesome to be alone in the home office. It's awesome to take care of the kids and the washing machine and all the distractions, which are no longer the distractions, but the work life balance. So being distracted from what I wanted 5 minutes ago is the new normal.
Yeah.
And many companies have to live with a productivity decrease of 20%. Nobody would say, because if you say it aloud, you're going against the zeitgeist and you will never have the opportunity, even have the opportunity to get your people back to that quarter. And why would you? Because it's so attractive to maybe onboard people from other corners of the world where you would never have paid the moving costs, like attracting these people and bringing the to the to the adjacent cities of your headquarter. So now you can live with people being only 300 kilometers or even 3,000 kilometers away, and that's the new normal. And it saves such a lot of money. That's why I see the big change, of course, comes when it comes to, in terms of office layouts. And even HubSpot just opens its new London facility, as we say, and there is no office. It's just meeting rooms, more or less.
Okay.
So it's over. And
Such
and
service
even and the
workplace.
sales I don't want to know how many sales guys, especially sales reps in the IT industry, live on Mallorca or other beautiful corners of the world. And that's what's currently happening. So but then returning to the zeitgeist, we have to live with this. We won't change it anytime soon. We won't change it anytime in the future. This is the new normal, and then we have to build it. And so if we are all alone as a sales rep on Mallorca and on the beach, and I don't know what should distract us on the beach of Mallorca, um, it's good to have your AI driven system with you to say what you should do. And you would accept to be directed by an AI system that tells you not to call this guy, but just send him an email. So it's activity
Yeah.
based, not to focus on that account, but on that one because of higher probabilities to close and whatever. So the workflow driven reach out system with lead nurturing that is widely accepted in marketing can be the new future for sales as well.
Why does that differ between a kind of a remote and a physical presence world? The recommendation is a recommendation is a recommendation. It might look different.
You mean like if you have a sales conversation in one meeting room or and you go to the customer?
I mean, you are not sitting on the lap of your customer 24/7. So there's in all sales conversations, always was a decent chunk of remote conversations. Always. So and the difference between the situation that you now described between me sitting on the beach in wherever, I prefer the Maldives, by the way, and
Good.
sitting more in my car and being unproductive, is that the recommendation that the system gives me is different.
I didn't want to compare these two things. What I would love to compare is if you have the opportunity to show up once per month or once per quarter, or if you can because you're 3,000 kilometers away.
Mhm.
What we see is that this, and even my business, I founded it on a virtual platform. So we were Zoom customers right from the beginning, way
Mhm.
back in 2013, 14, when Britta was the active part of founding the company.
Mhm.
We did 80% of our airtime only on Zoom and 20% presence with the customers.
So it clearly
That's
works.
clear, huh?
So it clearly works.
It clearly works. Of course, it does. But now with the pandemic, having these money can't buy moments where you can literally shake hands with people becomes even more valuable because now the thing that always was important in meeting people is propelled up to the ceiling. It's called trust.
Mhm.
Even shaking the hand of someone is a sign of trust in the future
Yeah.
Mhm.
because it means personal contact. So shaking hands was such a underestimated thing, and now when do we get rid of our bumps? When will you shake whose hand?
Good question.
And
Especially,
if
yeah.
so, sitting together in one room, knowing that it can be a risk. And we are already preconditioned. When COVID-19 is over and COVID-20 has not happened yet, people will still be preconditioned psychologically and think that they are in danger because they wore their masks for years. Or maybe we only have a mask Pflicht, German word.
Mandate. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, the same thing and the same cultural effect could show up as in Asian countries, of course.
Yeah.
50% of the population running around them with a mask, where you can even not really recognize or interpret nonverbal signals. It's so this is our new presence. This is our new future, and that's why having the opportunity to show up in a personal meeting and literally shake hands becomes more important. And if you're 3,000 kilometers away, this simply won't happen.
Mhm.
Or
But
you do this extra effort like the big brands always did. So when Walmart had their annual meeting right from the beginning, they invited everyone from every single country, not everyone on a quota base, of course, but there were, let's say, 20,000 people flocking together in one stadium alone. So these, and where people can mingle, you have this personal relationship building. What do you guys think?
we are well over time. So still, how do you reconcile these statements with the German export numbers soaring? Because whatever German Mittelstand does, and Germany is a medium-sized business country, they are selling like crazy into other countries, which are far away usually, means people
Mhm.
don't meet that often anyway. So how does that reconcile?
It's easy. The strong become stronger and the
Okay.
weak become
Yeah,
weaker.
yeah, but that means the handshake isn't that necessary. It works.
Oh, you want to boil it down to that
Yeah,
one?
I want to boil it down to that. Yeah.
I don't know whether the Argentinians working as a trade partner for the Germans who export then to Argentina do the job with virtual or real life handshakes.
Mm,
So the sales structures and the trade partner structures of German
mm,
companies for small and medium enterprises have not changed so much.
Okay.
Well, what you're basically saying that trading platforms like Ariba, just to name one, are doomed. That's what you are just saying. So they don't work, is
No,
what you're
that
saying.
would be the other interpretation. I won't
Well,
say that.
this is totally an online business.
Yes.
Amazon is a total online business, so you don't shake hand with anybody.
Yeah, if you go to component sales, you're probably right, but you don't speak for solution selling there.
We're not talking consulting, probably. Yeah.
I don't talk consulting. I
Mm.
talk machinery. I'm talking about the Deutsche Anlagengeschäft.
Yeah, solution selling for me is a consulting sales.
Okay.
Pretty much the
No,
same.
because I have many B2B customers who do both. So the component selling is driven now away from the salespeople and has to be automated by help of e-commerce. So like every deal below 10,000 euros will be pushed to a semi automatic sales process. And everything hovering around bigger projects, key account management relationships will be driven even more on a personal manner. So that's the differentiation or the spread that I see.
Okay. Ralph, Tobias, how much time do you have? Because
Oh,
we are really well over time.
I personally don't care, but maybe our listeners won't have so much time. I don't know. You guys can judge. So maybe there is still room for a question or so
Yeah,
for a last one.
there certainly is some room. Yeah. So how would you let's go back a little to the CRM market or the CX market or however that is named next year.
Mhm.
Looking into the trajectory, what will be the key topics of vendors?
One important topic is the thing you said, Ralph, that in this new environment, salespeople don't want to live anymore with the legacy CRM systems as long as they are not process driven. And to make it process driven requires to change your CRM system internally, or you will even migrate away from that.
Yeah.
So one big driver of what's happening out there. Second thing is what we discussed is this alignment between marketing and sales. Where marketing people have delivered, sales has to catch up, even in a B2B environment, even in an account-based marketing environment. So if marketing really does a decent ABM job, rare enough, you can see really firing your business up to new heights. Second thing, but this is a niche thing where I would wonder to see whether more companies adapt that framework or not.
Mhm.
Third thing, we mentioned this a bit is what we no, or what we haven't mentioned so far is the changing in sales frameworks. So the old things like the band framework and so will be thrown out of the window, and more modern things kick in that work across functions. So where you want one unified sales approach at least between marketing and sales.
Mm,
I see this more often now, which gives me hope that the barriers will be reduced between marketing and sales even more.
mm,
Cool.
Um, the CDP thing will continue to be one thing for the early movers. And you asked so much about the ROI and the business cases. This is
mm,
exactly the main focus of the business because you have to prove the business value beforehand. And that's not always easy because you cannot know what
mm,
happens to the customer journey, to the extra sales leverage, if people will really consume more, if you will be able to deliver more.
mm,
And you can't argue with better data quality and um, reduced time to market and all that stuff. That's all beautiful, but not measurable.
mm,
So but I'm even irritated in a positive way by who wants to move fast with CDP and who is not moving fast. So
mm,
it's not the companies that I would have expected where the big business potential lies. Maybe I know why. Maybe this is my last statement, because employing a CDP means that when you already have a high interest in managing your customer relations, now you can do it in real time. But if you never cared, like IKEA doesn't, you will not employ the CDP to now heal the pain from years back. You will continue to have your IKEA family card and the outlets, and there will be no combination, and you just don't care for the customer. And you're not even interested in interpreting the purchases over time. You won't recognize when they have children, and you're not interested. People have to tell you. And I guess that's the big advantage. If people want to listen to customers, now is the right time. And that has to be driven on the C-level. If people just don't care and they are managing their channels only on a transaction level, nothing will change by the help of a CDP. My understanding.
Well,
sounds like perfect closing words.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for being with us.
A pleasure.
Yeah, always a pleasure, right? So already the second time, right?
So next time, really, Britta.
Probably a pleasure to see Britta.
Yeah, hopefully.
Cool.
Maybe together with you.
Yes, of course. Not in Q4, but next year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Goodie.
Perspective is important.
So thanks to everybody who participated actively as well as just listeningly on the audience.
Please take care and don't catch the nasty bug like I did.
Yeah. Okay. So going offline now, backstage. See you next time. And
thanks.